Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the Apostle and Elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to Hopeful Elect. In this lesson, I want to go through this video that I found through by another brother's channel. Found it through the brother's channel's name is GMS Tazaba Amath 3. I'll say it again. The brother's channel's name is GMS Tazaba Amath 3. And the title of his lesson was Esau Got a Hive Mind to Now Get Jake. And in the video that he was going into, I'll even show you right here. It's called Predictive History, and it's by this man that appears to be either a Moabite or an Ammonite. Now, it says that this video was uploaded 3 weeks ago, but I'm not entirely sure how old this video may be. It may have been uploaded 3 weeks ago, but, it may have happened last year or so ever. But he goes into, essentially, as you can see, how societies collapse, right? And as you can see there on the pause screen, because we're right now in the decline, he's focusing more on the decline. And he's teaching a class or whatever. And he lists a couple of things there, as you can see, as it's paused, of what leads to a decline or a collapse in society. Excuse me. So I want to go through that. I'm going to play the video, and you're gonna see him go through these things, and I'm gonna eat off of what Elder Yashwamba always says about what. I'm gonna try to say this the best that I can remember it. That linking the things happening worldwide with the scriptures in so many words, right? I apologize if I'm getting that incorrectly, right? But sometimes in his intro, when he starts his videos off, right, that he'll say sometimes so that the elect may know that the word of the Heavenly Father is true, right? Linking the things happening worldwide with what's happening in the scriptures, and you're gonna see that everything that the Hebrew Israelites have been telling you. Look at what this guy is going through, and we can link it up with scriptures. So that's what I want to do in this lesson is, look, this class that he's doing, which is recent because he does mention Trump in it. So obviously, like I said, I'm not sure if it was maybe around the time of Trump's previous administration or if it's talking about now. I'm not too sure of that. Excuse me. But he is listing things there. And we're gonna go through that list, and we're gonna bring out some precepts to back that up, and let's see, like Elder Yashwama says, linking the things happening worldwide with the scriptures, so that way you know that what the words of the Heavenly Father are faithful and true. Which I'm gonna get that precept to start us off. Now I'm gonna, just to keep it focused on this video, I'm just gonna read from my just gonna use the book. I'm not gonna use the app. Because that's what this is all about. This is not about feelings. This isn't about what I think. No, this is about what you know, right? A lot of Christians will say, well, I think or I feel. To hell with what you think or feel. It's what you can prove in the scriptures, right? At the end, in the last days, nobody's going to care about your feelings, right? Because when all hell is breaking loose, it's not going to matter about what your feelings are. People are going to be thinking about, what are we supposed to do? Things is going crazy. Well, what am I supposed to do? People aren't going to care about, I feel that. No, to hell with your feelings. So this is 2 Ezra chapter 15 and verse 1. It says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. So the words that we speak are the words of prophecy that have been put in our mouth, right, by the Heavenly Father. Right? He has given us the Holy Spirit to understand the scriptures. As is written of in Amos chapter 3 and verse 7, surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealed his secret unto his servants, the prophets. So we are his servants. We are his prophets. And that's why we go into prophetic things, like Elder Yashwamba says, linking the things that are happening worldwide to the scriptures, to let you know what is going to happen. So that way you can know, as the scriptures say in 2 Ezra 9, measure thou the times diligently in itself, right? So that way you can know what time you're in, what's soon going to happen, right? Verse 2, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. All right, so everything that this guy's you're gonna see there say, you're gonna see it's also in the scriptures.
right? So let's discuss societies, why they rise and why they decline. Now, unfortunately, we live in a world in decline. So there are lots of signs that the world is in decline. What are these signs? Shout out some signs. Yeah, very good, okay? So you have conflict and wars. You look at the situation in Ukraine, look at the situation in the Middle East. But also, you may have seen the news and you have seen conflicts arising in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Myanmar. Also, Trump is about to send U.S. troops to Mexico and Venezuela. Okay, so we live in a world of conflict, and that tells us that the world is in decline. What are some other signs?
Sorry. So I would say that this happened, this class that he's doing would happen this year. So as you heard there, he said what? Conflict and wars. Now, where can we go in the scriptures to read about that, hear that? Well, none other than Matthew, the 24th chapter, right? This is red letter. This is what our Lord told his disciples. Let's start verse 3. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming, and the end of the world, right? And the end of the world doesn't mean the world's going to disappear and blow up, but meaning the end of the age, right? So what is going to be the end of this age? Every, empire has had their age, their period of time, right? If you look at the back where it says what, the rise and decline, rise and collapse, well, the Roman Empire had their rise, right? From their, you could say, humble beginnings, from first becoming the, if I'm not mistaken, the Roman kingdom, to eventually the Roman, Roman Senate, or I'm sorry, Roman Republic, and then eventually the Roman Empire. So it had its humble beginnings, right? It has its rise and then had its collapse. No different than like the Babylonians. They had their, rise into power and then eventually their collapse. Same thing with the Persians, right? They had their rise. They took down the Babylonians. They took down the Egyptians. They took down all these other nations. And what? Then they eventually went down via the Greeks, right? Alexander the Great was the reason why the Persians were taken out of power. So every empire has had their rise and their fall. So America is no different. So continuing verse 4, and Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am anointed, and shall deceive many. Verse 6, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right, so you see there what? And if I'm not mistaken, I believe, I think it's either Luke or maybe, if it's not Luke, then maybe Matthew, where it talks about commotions and things like that. So you're hearing those things happen in the world. And that's something that this man labels down as what? A decline. So what was written here in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 6 is showing you the decline of an empire, the decline of a society. But let's continue. So that's number one right there.
Good, yes. So you have climate change. Okay, we are putting too much pressure on the environment. So the air, the water, the land is becoming much more toxic. Okay, good. What else?
So you said the land, the air has become more toxic, right? Which that takes me to essentially Revelation chapter 11, because it talks about destroy them that destroyed the earth. Because the so-called white man being in rulership, being in power, being the head of all these companies and all these type of things, you could sit there and say, and foolishly say that, oh, nobody rules the world. Well, somebody's in charge. And a lot of people, the people who are mostly in charge of these businesses are so-called white people, Edomites, right? their faces is everywhere, right? They mostly are in charge of things, right? Regardless if you want to believe it or not. So the earth being in their hand, the earth being under their rulership, under their control, and you see nothing but pollution in the water to the point where animals are beaching themselves, meaning that animals, those aquatic animals, their habitat, right, their home where they're supposed to live and stay at is the water. But because the water is so poisonous and polluted even for them that they would rather go on on land, right, to try and survive. That is an unnatural occurrence for an animal to get out of its natural habitat, for it to leave its natural habitat, which is water, and for it to come up on dry land to try and live. Now, if it's in its natural habitat, right, and there's nothing polluting the water, the animal is not going to try and leave the sea because it knows instinctively, I cannot survive on the land. It knows instinctively, this is my habitat, this is where I'm supposed to be, in the sea. But if now these sea creatures are leaving the sea because it's too poisonous and they can't live there, it's almost like, imagine you're suffocating it, right? You're in water suffocating. You're going to try to swim up for air because your habitat is land. You breathe. You don't breathe in water, right? You're not Aquaman that you could just stay underwater and just breathe that in. No. So once you feel that suffocation of, I can't hold my breath like this, I need to breathe in, I can't breathe in water, you're going to swim up for air. And that's how essentially the sea creatures are feeling when they beach themselves, to the point where their very own habitat, which is what they're used to, is become so poisonous to them that they have to look for unnatural, how can I put this? Another means to live, which is not their usual spot to live, which is inland, in the air. So that shows you that what? They're destroying the earth, right? To the point where animals or these sea creatures cannot live in this area or live in the water. Right? Pollution, all these different things. So this is, this is Revelation chapter 11, verse 18. Yes. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. So he was going into climate change and seeing essentially how the world is being destroyed. And hey, the earth being in their hands, they're destroying the earth. I want to check something real quick. Just give me 1 second. Right? Now, I don't believe he goes into it here, but when I go into this word destroy, it says to change for the worse, to corrupt, of minds and morals. So it's not just, the oceans, the air, but he's even destroyed the minds and the morals of the people, to where the people now, just going to give you a very simple, easy one to understand, but even women, to the point women will wear such skimpy outfits in 20-degree weather just to look cute, right? Women will wear all these type of clothes and then say, hey, don't look at me like a piece of meat, to the point where they've corrupted men's minds to where a man thinks he can be a woman and a woman thinks that they can be a man. And some of these areas where I work in, I see that all the time. I remember when it was a couple of months ago with their certain month, right? And essentially I remember seeing this big brolic Jake in a dress, and he has a full beard and everything. But that's where it gets to you, where they have corrupted, not just destroying the atmosphere, the water and things like that, the food, right? The forest, right? But also they have corrupted the minds of the people, which leads to what? Them not having any morals. And who has done that? The Edomites, those at the top.
Good. Yes, unemployment is going up. But not only that, but people's attitude towards work is declining. We live in an age when people don't take work that seriously. People are not as enthusiastic. They're not as motivated to work hard as before. we call this in China the Bailan age, right? The age of Bailan, meaning let it rot. Like, who cares? Don't take things too seriously. In America, the term is called quiet quitting. Okay, you pretend to work, but you're not really working. What are some other signs?
Right. So now the next point he went into is unemployment, right? And he said there, if you didn't understand, because kind of the way he talks, he said the term in American is called quiet quitting, essentially where people, because imagine if you quit your job, right? You're not essentially working there, or you're not required to do the stuff there at the job anymore because you've quit. You're not at the job. But essentially, people are quiet quitting to where they're not, wanting to do the job. Like he said, they're just having a emotion to like he said, let it rot. I don't care about this job. F this job. Who gives a damn? You're there clocking in the hours, but you're like doing the bare minimum, right? To the point where it's like, damn, do you even work here? The way you're moving and stuff like that. And again, he talks about unemployment. So we have here Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 4. And the door shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. Right, yeah. And he shall rise up at the voice. Hold on, let me see. Is that the right one? No, sorry. It's verse 3. I apologize. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. Right? So the grinders is the work, unemployment. Right? So the grinding is ceasing. And how? By the many different ways, one of which is AI. Right? AI is causing people to lose their jobs. Right? AI integration into the workplace is now causing people to lose their jobs. That is one way, or a very major way, really. I shouldn't say one way, but a very major way that people are losing their jobs. Because now with AI is not like a person that needs to sleep, that needs to eat, that needs a break, that needs a vacation. AI is not like that, right? It is pretty much, I don't want to say entity, but it's a thing that is able to go on forever. It doesn't, like I said, doesn't need to sleep, doesn't need to eat, doesn't need a break, anything like that. So it can keep going on. So with you having AI or your entire business, revolved around AI, I'll just use security for an example, right? Because even me and the brother Aharon talked about this. I feel like eventually I just feel in the spirit that security is going to be hit someday very soon in a big way. And security would be a very easy way or easy thing to take over with AI. Because let's say you have a certain area, right? Let's just say a marketplace, right? And sometimes we know how Jake can be. You have people who are unreliable. People always coming to work late, this and that. So it's like, why am I worrying about having people work a job where it's like they're coming in late? When they do their job, I always have to talk to him, this and that. It's like, I'm tired of that. These people are very unreliable and they're not doing what I want. So integrate your business, or let's just say a marketplace, with AI, to where when it's closing time, I could have AI lock the doors. And if you don't have a certain key card or something to get in, you're not getting in. Right? At the same time, you could, that's where you could also tie the MOTB, but I'm not going to get too deep into that. But also, once it's locked up time, the AI system could lock down the whole building and nobody's getting in or out. And when it's time to make for certain deliveries, you have to have that key card or whatever. Let's just say you scan it on the reader. The reader opens. Let's say the loading dock opens up. Boom. And then once you come in, the person comes in. They drop off the whatever they need to drop off and go. Then the loading dock closes back, and it's the same process over and over. Essentially, I'm using what I do at one of my spots that I work at as an idea, because around like 4 o'clock is when deliveries start coming in, and you have to open the loading dock for the guys to come in. But I'm using that as, hey, let's say that's AI, move the security guard out the way and just have it to where you have to, the delivery guys have to have a certain card to get inside the building. They scan it on the reader, the loading dock opens, they come in, they drop off the packages, whatever it be, deliveries, they leave, and then it just goes on like that. So now you don't have to worry about unreliable person. You don't have to worry about a guard sleeping on the job or whatever. You don't have to worry about them being late, because your system is already the job itself, right? So that is a major way that AI is having an effect on jobs. And the AI could also do things more efficiently and more faster and without a mistake than a person can. A person may make a mistake on something, right? May make an error. So that is one of the ways that AI has a major part in people losing their jobs, right? The grinding, the employment, the work ceasing. Right. Another thing is with all the rising prices, right? Again, going back to the terminology used of quiet quitting, to where people are not going to want to work because it's like, yo, I'm having to do all this work for all this little bit of pay, all this stress for no reason. Then, if I'm not mistaken, earlier this year, a lot of black women were getting, fired from their jobs. So that's the another aspect of unemployment right there as well. But let's continue.
First of all, buy solid
Damn
silver
it.
or gold. Whether it's these 4mm Miami Cubans.
So also you have lower birth rate. And this is a very important sign, right? Because if you think about it, if young people refuse to get married and have babies, eventually the world is going to die off, right? So this is actually a very important sign that the world is in decline. And we're seeing this happen throughout the entire world in all societies. The only exception is Israel and Georgia, but these are very small, rare cases. For most societies, there's rapid decline in birth rate. What are some other signs?
Now there I would disagree because they're not having a lot of children. If you really look it up and go into it, they're not having a lot of children. So there I would disagree. But one of the things that, especially if you know about the MGTOW movement, right? It's called Men Going Their Own Way. Another one is called SYSBM, Save Your Soul, Black Men, right? And what a lot of men have realized with the so-called dating market is that a lot of these women are unreasonable and you can't deal with them. So the reason why there's a lot of low birth rates and why men don't want to have kids is because men don't want to have to deal with the emotion of a woman where she could say she loves you today, but then tomorrow she doesn't love you. And then she could take half of all your assets, half of everything, take the kids, and you still have to pay her. But here it is, independent women, strong women, I could do it on my own. But here it is, I'm still financing you as if we were together. You might as well just be together. What's the point of divorce? But because of her emotions, you may trip her off, say something that she doesn't like, or just in general, she's not feeling it anymore. And she could take the kid, she can take half of everything you own, still keep the house, the car, and then you have to walk away with nothing. So she gets half of your assets and you still have to pay her for these next couple of years. But here it is, she gets to walk off. And of course, women are going to sit and say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, first of all, that's robbery, number one. Number two, if you're a strong, independent woman, you want to separate, just go your way, go find you a new man, right? Go find yourself a job and don't live off of him because you're strong and independent. Why is it that you must get half of what this man owns and still keep the house? Especially if he bought the house. That's robbery. That's taking away from somebody. That's not yours. If you want to live in the house, be with the man. If not, go find your own man now, since you're divorced and you want to separate, and go find your own stuff. But women are not going to argue against that because it favors them. And usually, human nature, if anything favors you, you're not going to argue against it. So with that, men have realized that, some men do want to have children. Some men want to have that, good wife, have the kids, but they've realized, right, they're not tricking themselves, right? Unlike certain women, right? Not all women, but certain women, they live in this fantasy or whatever, the way the world should be, but men have woken up to reality that women aren't these beautiful butterflies or these innocent people as they once thought. So they've realized the true nature of women are now woken up and say, I don't want to put myself, I'm already in a bad case scenario by myself. For me to put myself in a worst case scenario with getting a certain woman, and then let's say she switches up on you and wants to leave, now she gets to take half of my stuff, take the kid, right? Take the home, take the car. And then now I have to be left here emotionally distraught. Now I have to worry about what type of man or person she might bring around my kid. This man might want to touch my child, depending on if it's a girl child or not, right? Some men may be into that, touching a boy child. But if it's a girl child, this dude's going to try touching my daughter. Who knows what type of man she might bring around, that my child's going to be seeing certain things that I don't want them to see. So you don't really have control. So it's like all these things. It's like, yo, I'm not getting into that. So that's one of the reasons why there is low birth rates in America. Because men are saying to hell no. And some men have went across seas and found them a woman. But I will, like I said, disagree with that other aspect of what he got into Israel. That, if you look it up, they're not having a lot of children either.
Okay, you see a lower standard of living. Okay, and all this means is that inflation, right? So people make less money and they can afford less. Prices go up, but people's wages go down. So that's another sign of decline.
Right, and isn't inflation something that's still going on ever since like the end of 2019 going on till now, that people still talk about inflation? It may not be talked about a lot on the news, but it is still something that circles around going into inflation. And that is what? Something that you see. So all these things that he's listed here, you're seeing that happen. And essentially, while you people are not paying attention at all these things, right? The conflicts of war, right? The climate change, going into the animals beaching themselves, right? Even going into spiritually, when you go into that word, like in Revelation 11:18, destroy, it goes into what? Just to corrupt the minds of people and morals. So all these things happening are leading to a decay, right? Unemployment, that's showing you a decay. If there are wars and things like that, unemployment, right? Lower birth rates, this is all leading to a decline of society. Because if I'm not mistaken, if it's not this video, or if it's another video I watched with this individual, children are pretty much free labor. And I know people are not going to like hearing that, but essentially children are your slaves, regardless if you want to admit that or not, right? And children are, in a sense, free labor. So now you don't have that free labor, because now you don't have your kids to do what you want them to do, right? Kids can be an asset if they're useful. But here it is, if you're not having kids, well then, where's the next generation of, the next doctors or the next plumbers or the next this? So that's leading to a decline. And a lot of these YNs, these young dudes, don't want to do anything with their lives. They're just, let me just smoke, drink, and just do nothing with myself. So again, we're going to be the next doctors, right? We're going to be the next physicians, the next this, the next that, the next generation to take over in society. Because that's how society continues. 1 second. Sorry. Right? You would have the old generation, they did their thing, and then what? They would teach the next generation would come up and keep the cycle going. But if this next generation, this new generation doesn't want to do nothing, then you add on the unemployment. That's the decline, a collapse of society.
Okay. What are some other signs?
Health issues like diabetes or high blood pressure.
Okay. You also see higher stress, right? Higher stress. People feel more anxious. People feel more depressed. People feel more stressed. Emotionally, they feel drained. Okay, what else?
And for that one, 1 second. Let me get Luke 21 and 25. Right, so for that one, like he said, higher stress. This is Luke chapter 21 and verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. And when you go into our word perplexity, the Greek word there is aporia. I forgot you got to go into the root word with this one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. It says to be without resources, to be in straits, to be left wanting, to be embarrassed, to be in doubt, not to know which way to turn. So because society is getting so chaotic, people are getting unsure with unemployment and things like that, people's stress is higher, right? And why are they stressed? Because they don't know what to do. They don't know which way to turn, right? It says to be at a loss with oneself, to be in doubt, right? It says not to know how to decide or what to do. With unemployment rates, going up, prices of things, inflation going up as well, right? So people are losing their jobs, but the prices are going up. You need a job to buy stuff, so people are left not knowing what to do, not knowing what decision to make. What is the proper judgment? That's leading to higher stress, and it's going to lead to people, essentially crashing out, as they say.
Okay, people are less optimistic, right? Okay, greater pessimism. Okay. Also, and this is really important, is the idea of debt, right?
Right. So that last point, if I'm not mistaken, would also tie into I forgot what he wrote there. Hold on, let me see.
Both public and private. There are lots of governments around the
Right, greater pessimism, which also it has here in Strong's definition. It says to have no way out, to be at a loss mentally, stand in doubt, be perplexed. So although those last two, high stress, greater pessimism, leads to what it says here in Luke 21 and 25, perplexity, right? They don't know what to do. They're at a loss with oneself. So that eventually that's going to lead to a person being stressed out. You can't find a job. What am I going to do? The prices of food is going up. How am I supposed to support myself? Or if you have a family, what am I supposed to do? That's going to lead to stress. Then eventually that leads to pessimism, which let me look up that word. It says pessimism, but pessimistic, right, describes the state of mind of some who always expects the worst. So eventually people are going to expect the worst because, well, things ain't getting any better. It's just one thing after the other. It's like, damn, ain't nothing gonna get better. So eventually people are gonna have a pessimistic attitude toward things. Ain't nothing getting better. What am I supposed to do, man? Every time I try this or try that, it never works. Pessimistic attitude. And if you have that attitude, eventually that's gonna cause stress. So I believe that's it, but we're going to listen to a little bit more just in case if he has a little bit more. But I believe that's it, but let's see.
World that are facing a fiscal crisis. A fiscal crisis just means that they spend more than they take in tax revenue. There are many families in China, in the United States, throughout the world that are heavily in debt. Okay, so debt is a huge issue for the world today. Also, lower cohesion and trust. And what this means is that people no longer trust each other as they did before. Society is less cohesive. If you walk on the street and you see a man on the street bleeding or hurt, you're less likely to help him. Okay, and this is very true not only in China, but also elsewhere as well. So lower trust issues. What are some other signs?
That reminds me, let's go back there in Matthew, if I'm not mistaken, the love of many shall wax cold, right? A lot of times, especially in these days, people do what? If they see an incident happen, they don't help the person, they just record it, right? Or people see the misfortune of others and don't help a person at all. Right, sometimes a homeless person will come on the train, or the other day yesterday when I was working, I had to go to work. I saw a guy laying in the subway station, and I guess he had pissed on himself as well while he was sleeping, and the pee was just all along the, on the subway side or whatever, where you gotta obviously walk, and it's like, damn, right? But nobody's looking out to help anybody. Nobody's looking out to do anything for anybody because, like it says, the love of many shall wax cold. Let me find that real quick. Yep. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. So at one point, like he said, a lower cohesion, right? Meaning people don't trust each other, right? Things happening in the world, eventually people are going to get very aggressive with one another. So that's going to be a lack of cohesion, as he said there, right? A lack of trust, which it says there. And even the word there in the Greek is psycho. And it says, the last definition says, of waning love. So people's, if you use the word there, cohesion, right? Cohesion means to stick together. People's willingness to help people out and things like that is eventually going to just deteriorate. It's going to wane, right? It's going to deteriorate and go away. People are not going to want to help and look out for somebody. Because if you got to help and look out for somebody, you're taking away from you. You're taking away from, let's say, your resources. So not only do I have to help myself, but now I have to help you out. And I have to put myself at risk to help you out, right? Let's just use the whole damsel in distress thing for an example, right? Especially in these days, why are men going to want to help a woman or, as they say, Captain Save-A-Ho, or help a woman out when there is a potential for me to lose my life? Then on top of that, I don't know this situation about what you and this man got going on. So you know what? I'm going to stay out of it. And I'm going to just go on. I'm going to walk away. That's between you and him. And whatever happens to you, happens to you. But I got to care about me. I'm not getting involved in this and having myself lose my life. So, and then the woman might be like, please help me. And it's like, nobody's going to help. Why? Because that's you and his problem. You two deal with it. You two see it out. So you see that love or that cohesion is going to wane. It's going to deteriorate.
When it comes to chains, Jackson has the best-selling chain for men. This is the Cuban 8mm, worn by celebrities and athletes like...
Disease.
Okay, greater disease, yeah. Okay, increase in disease. People are less healthy than before. People are more stressed than before. People are less optimistic. So we can go on and on.
It's a good thing I kept it going. Still in Matthew. All right. So let's start again at verse 6. Right. So as you can see there, right, all the list that he lists there of the decline. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. So diseases are spreading as well. Those pestilences and things like that, you have with the rabbits, if I'm not mistaken, with the tendrils on their face, the deers having warts on them, and all this type of stuff. So those are the pestilence. Those are the diseases that are spreading. Right? And like he said, we can go on and on and on about this, but as you're seeing, all these things are happening in the earth. Also the earthquakes as well. So that is a sign of the times. That is a sign of the decline, the end of this place. So while you're joking around and playing, or like it says, which I think I'll end in that. I'm sorry, they're working on a building next to me. I want to say it's the same chapter where it says, as in the days of Noah. Yep. Right, this is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah, which is Noah, were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, which represent the destruction, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah, which is Noah, entered into the ark. So you may be thinking, we're not saying, and don't be foolish, thinking that you can't eat, that you can't drink, that you can't marry. But having an eating and drinking and marrying mindset is what? Of mirth, right? That everything is fine. We could eat, we could drink, we could relax. Because when you eat and drink, what? You're in a relaxed position. You're not tense. If you're eating, you're not in a tense position where it's like, oh, I got to be on edge while I'm eating. No, you're relaxed. Right, a marriage, you're relaxed. Everybody's enjoying themselves, right? The bride is about to be given away to the groom. Everybody's chill. Everybody's relaxed. This is not the time to be in a mirth mindset or in a relaxed mindset. right? Jacob's trouble is upon us, right? We're entering into Jacob's trouble, or if not, the beginning stages of Jacob's trouble. So that's what the eating and drinking and marriage represents, a relaxed mindset, right? Mirth, if you will. Again, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. See, so just like how until the day that the flood came and then the Lord closed up that ark, while they were thinking that everything was, fine in the world, but then the flood came. But Noah, because he prepared, he was saved, him and his family, right? Noah, his wife, his 3 sons and their wives, they were preserved, they were saved. But everybody that was outside the ark was not. So it's going to be the same thing. Those that are not paying attention, that don't take heed unto the doctrine, you're going to be likened unto those that are going to get swept away by that flood, which represents that destruction when it comes. Right? I'll continue. It says, verse 40, then shall 2 be in the field. The one shall be taken and the other left. See, so one person is going to be taken, meaning what? They're going to be delivered, but the other one going to be left behind. 2 women shall be grinding at the mill. The one shall be taken and the other left. See? Because what? The mindset. One is going to be, in a mindset of looking for the return of the Lord, while the other one is going to be looking for the world to continue. But I want to see if he says anything more, but then I believe that will be the end of the video.
On and on, because the signs of rapid social decline are too many. Now, these are signs of decline. Well, if we look at rise, then obviously it's the opposite, right? People are much more willing to trust each other. Rather than going into debt, people will say.
But I'll end it there, like I said. But as you can see, all those lists, and like Elder Yashwama says, linking the things happening worldwide to the scriptures. And as he lists all those things, those are the things that are happening in the world right now. And if you tie them in with the precepts, the scriptures, everything links up. Everything is right there. The scriptures, it all warns of that. So like it said in 2nd Ezra, for these words are faithful and true. And we're seeing that what? These words are faithful and true. So I'll end it here. I pray that this video has been edifying. In ending, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostle and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom.